Well, hello, Divi Nation. Welcome to a brand new Divi use case live stream where each week we show you how to add new design and functionality to your Divi websites. And today I'm going to be showing you how to build a sermon layout with an audio player using custom fields and dynamic content. And to do this, I'll be using the Advanced Custom Fields plugin to create a group of custom fields on the back end. And when it's all said and done, you'll have a sermon layout that you can customize on the back end without ever having to deploy the visual builder. So I'm excited to get started, but don't forget to check the video description. There is a link to the blog post that goes along with this use case that may be helpful for you. And so without wasting time, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome everyone. Just doing a little sound check, making sure I'm coming in loud and clear for everyone. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Tell us where you're from, and maybe we can answer all your questions today, hopefully. Looks like we are up and running on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome everyone. All right, thank you guys. Looks like we're good to go. So one of the first things I want to just kind of just show you up front is kind of a sneak peek of what we're going to be doing today. And on my screen here, you can see that I have a layout. This is actually, so one of the things you're going to need is the church layout pack, which was released I believe last week, and it's one of our new pre-made layouts. So we're going to be using the blog page or the church blog page from that layout pack to kind of kickstart the design. But the main thing we're going to be doing is building a group of custom fields that will go ahead and populate the content of this post to create a sermon layout. And so as you can see here, they have a title here, which is the sermon title, the speaker of the sermon, the date, and all this is dynamic content, which can be updated on the back end. Also, there's going to be a description, which is also dynamic content. And then you have this, which is a audio module with the kind of the cover art image here, which is being pulled from the featured image on the back end. You have again, the sermon title, speaker, and date here. And we have an embed. This is actually an audio embed that we've positioned inside the audio module and this also can be updated on the back end very easily. And lastly, we have a little download button here underneath the audio player as an option for downloading the file. So this is also a link that is populated by a custom field, so using dynamic content. So this is kind of where we're going. This is the layout we'll use, but also to create these custom fields, we're going to be using a plugin. It's actually the Advanced Custom Fields plugin. And I'm just going to drag it in here so you can see. If you go on WordPress.org, it's available for free. It's the Advanced Custom Fields plugin. It's very popular for organizing, and it's basically an easy way for you to create custom fields. Custom fields are those items that are native to WordPress. You can actually do this without a plugin, but this makes it really easy, really nice to group them together. And it provides a good UI for managing these custom fields and updating them. So it's really nice. And we'll get into how to set that up and how to create those custom fields in a bit. So that's where we're going. I hope you were excited to learn some stuff today. And if you're new to custom fields and dynamic content, this is hopefully I can get some of these answers for you up front just to kind of show you the power of this. But if I go to my back end, just to show you how this one is currently set up, this is actually set up as a project. And a project is it's one of the custom post types that is built into Divi, and it's used to, organize and display things like a filterable portfolio module can be used to display projects and things like that. So you can actually, you build this layout on any page, post, or any custom post type you like. I just simply chose projects just because. All right. So this is actually the default kind of backend editor of the WordPress post here. And you can see that I've deployed the visual builder, but you can't see it. It's actually underneath this group of custom fields. And I can actually close the toggle here if you want. So this toggle here called sermons is actually a group of custom fields that I've added on the back end using the plugin. And you can see that it has organized all these custom fields with the label, and actually this is a speaker I can choose for the post or the sermon, and this is actually a drop down, so I can make it easier for my users to update the content by including a drop down if I already know what speakers to choose from, things like that. A sermon title can easily be added. Also the sermon date, and you can see that one of the field types here is a date picker. So it makes it easy to enter the date there. And here's a spot for a sermon description. And as you can see, it's actually a WYSIWYG editor, which is nice. So users can update the content using the WYSIWYG editor, and then it will populate on the post dynamically. So there's your sermon description. And then here is a field type called Embed. It's actually gives you the functionality to be able to embed an MP3 file, for example, as an audio player. This is something that WordPress already does for you if you're familiar with WordPress, but this kind of just takes advantage of that technology and creates a custom field where all you need to do is put in the URL to your file, and it will kind of build the shortcode for you and populate it wherever you add the dynamic content in Divi. So that's pretty cool. Also, you have a sermon audio URL here, which is basically the same URL to the file. I'm just using it differently. This is actually just going to populate a link so that when I click it, it will take me to the file, or download the file is actually the main goal there. So it's probably a good idea to create a zip file there so it'll download when clicked. But this is kind of the setup. And if I flip over to the actual post, that will make more sense. So you have the speaker, the sermon title here, the speaker that was selected here, the date, and so on. And all these things are populated. Here's the actual MP3 audio player that's populated just by putting in the file link, or the file URL. And so I hope that kind of clears it up front, just kind of the broad strokes of the power of custom fields and what it can do. And so if you continue to add sermons, new projects, it becomes a lot easier to populate this content without having to go into the visual builder every time. And once you're done, basically you would save this layout to your Divi library to be used on another project, and then you can just use the custom fields to populate it. So that's the main functionality and the power of custom fields and dynamic content. All right, any questions so far? I know that was kind of a broad overview of what custom fields are and what the dynamic content can do in Divi. We haven't really jumped into that yet, but this is the basic idea. All right, so sounds good, cool. I'm getting some responses. All right. We do have a question from Ratapalua. could I embed audio from Google Drive? Don't know. I think you will need, unless, I mean, I guess as long as the file has a .mp3 at the end, it's the actual MP3 file. I'm pretty sure it would work, but I'm not totally sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. I think we'll have more questions as we go along. All right, so to get things started, basically all you need to do is go and create a new project. And to do that, I'll go to my projects. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and set up the plugin. That'll make more sense to do first. So to do that, make sure you have the Advanced Custom Fields plugin installed and active, and then you'll see this on your WordPress dashboard, this in the nav here. It's called Custom Fields. And then you have these subnav items, field groups, add new, tools. You'll want to click on add new. This is actually going to create a new group, because that's where it starts, by adding a new field group. And then once the group's created, then you can start adding the custom fields to that group. So you would add in, let's say, a group called sermon or whatever. And then what you will need to do here, before we start adding a field, you need to find this location spot. And this kind of tells you where to deploy this field group. And this is currently, it's going to show this field group if it's a post type, and if that post type is equal to a post. But that post type can also equal a page, a layout, or a project. So what we want to do is choose project. Of course, you can choose anything you want. And then down here, I want to point out they have some options here, but the main one that I'm concerned with is the position of this group field. And so I want to put it to high after the title. That'll make sure it kind of stands above and stands out. And also you could put it on the side just to know, just to kind of show you what we're talking about here. This is the placement. So you can see the group is placed above the content or below the title here on the editor. And so I want to select it to high after title. And that's what this spot is here. And then after that, I would publish it, and then start adding my fields. And to add a field, you would basically click the add field button, and then you would give the field a label. Like, for instance, if you wanted to, you could put a like sermon title, and then it'll auto-populate the field name, which is nice. And then here's your field types. You can see there's a bunch of them to choose from. And what I want is a basic one, so a text box that I can put the sermon title in there. I could add some instructions for the authors or the users on the back end if I needed to there. And I could add some placeholder text, like sermon title, or enter sermon title if you want. You can also prepend stuff. And this is all just kind of helpful UI elements on the back end that'll help you. And then once I'm done, you can close the field and then add a new one. And you can continue this process. I'm going to actually, for sake of time, I'm going to show you the fields that I've already created. So I'm going to go to my field groups. And I'm going to click to edit this one. And you can see all of the field groups, all of the custom fields that I've added. Here's the speaker one. This is actually a field type select. So this will allow you that drop down option of selecting one from a drop down menu, and you just kind of enter them and put a break after each one. That'll let the plugin know that these are separate selections. And similar to kind of like an advanced contact form plugin or something like that. And you can choose the return format. I would just keep it as the value. It's basically going to return whatever one of these that's selected there. The next one, I'm going to close this one out. The next one's the sermon title. Briefly look at that one again. You can see it's a text type, placeholder text. So simple there. Let's close that one out. This is a sermon date field. And this one I've added a field type of date picker, which is going to make that process a lot easier, like I showed you in the beginning. And this is cool. You can just choose your display format. You can actually choose the display format when editing on the back end, and also choose a separate return format that you want to see on the page. So that's a cool functionality there. You can choose where you want the weekday to start. I just put Monday, and that's for the calendar, or the date picker calendar there. All right, let's close that one out. This is a sermon description, this next one. And this field type is a WYSIWYG editor, and make it easier for them to enter content. And you can choose what tabs you want available. So if you only want the text tab available, you can choose that as well. All right, let's close that up. And then let's look at the embed, sermon audio embed one. This one is actually using the field type OEmbed. And of course, you can learn about more of these field types on their website. And I think I've linked to that in the blog post, so feel free to check that out. Basically, this field type allows you to add that functionality of embedding, in this case, an audio file as an audio player. You can choose the embed size. You can even give it the wrapper a custom width, and also a class or an ID if you want to style it separately. Excuse me. And then close the field, and then let's look at the last one. The last one is a sermon audio URL field. And basically this field type is a URL. And this will allow me to put in a URL in there, and then easily populate any content I want on my page using dynamic content. All right, so those are my fields. Once it's all set up, these fields will actually be saved to your theme site-wide and available since we set it up to show this field on all projects. So every project that you create, any new project that you create, this field group will show up on the back end. All right, any questions so far about the plugin, how to set up custom fields, or about custom fields in general? All right, so I do have a question. HIB 101, can I build a carousel of images on a landing page that is still SEO oriented? Good question. I'm not sure if it relates directly to this, unless you are talking about populating that with custom fields or something like that. But good question. Hopefully someone else can address that. Sorry, I can't provide more information. Can you add a video? Oh, yes. Great question. I'm glad you mentioned it. Unfortunately, I was having some trouble using the embed, the custom field embed code with the visual build, or with Divi. And so there definitely is some kind of a issue there, that it's not really populating or entering the shortcode correctly. So currently, I think there's something, maybe someone else has more experience with it than I do, but currently with the kind of all the default setups, it has given me some trouble. So forewarning there, you may just need to update the video in a video module instead of the custom fields until we get the workaround for that. Yes, so Crazy Cow asks, is there an easy plugin that allows to create custom post types? This would allow to have sermons in the left. Yes, exactly. And there actually is a custom way to, if you wanted to rename, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm sure there's a way to rename projects to sermons. I'm not going to go over that now. In fact, I don't remember exactly how to do it. It's going to take some modification of the template, I believe. But to answer your question, yes, there is a plugin out there. I can't remember the name of it. It is a very popular, very powerful, very easy to use plugin for creating custom post types. And I know someone here in our group has used it before, and I'm sure they'll let you know the name of it. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But you're correct. So if you create custom post types, you can, start building your sermon database in there of all your sermon posts as well. All right. Jump over to Facebook here, see if we have any questions. Michael Hallbrook says, pods and toolset will do it. I think that was in response to your question on custom post types. So thanks for that. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our next part of the tutorial, which is actually adding the layout to your project post here. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to all projects and I'm going to click add new. All right, so let's just call this page, you can call it the title of your sermon or whatever it may be. And then you would use the Divi Builder. And as you'll notice here, the sermon's custom fields or custom field group is toggled closed, but you can open it. You can see all the fields are right there ready for me to populate. And then I would just go ahead and start populating these with my information that's related to this specific sermon. Click my sermon date, add a sermon description. All right, and then an audio embed, which let's go ahead and if you're hosting it on your WordPress site, you can just go here and get it from the URL here. It's probably a good idea to host, these files elsewhere and put them in a zip file. That way, well, not this one specifically, but that way maybe a cut down on load time and things like that. Enter your URL here, and let's enter it again here into my sermon audio URL. So as you can see, in less than a minute, I've updated this content, and it's ready to be used on my layout. So I'm just going to publish this. One thing I did forget to do is add a featured image. So this is going to be important for populating my cover art image for my media player there. So I'm going to add a featured image there. All right, so now I'm ready to start building out my layout. To do that, I'm going to use the Visual Builder, just so you know, in case you were wondering. Currently, the dynamic content is only accessible from the Divi Builder. Currently, if you want a more, backend builder friendly UI, you can just use the wireframe mode within the Visual Builder. But I'm just going to use the Visual Builder here, and I'm going to choose a pre-made layout, and this is where I'm going to select my church layout pack all the way down here. And then I'm going to select the blog page. And this is what I'm going to use as kind of the framework or the layout to kickstart the design of my project post. And immediately I'm just going to scroll down and start deleting things that I don't need. I'm going to delete this section here, and I'm going to keep this one. This will be kind of the main area for my content. I'm going to delete this next section, this one as well, and that's about it. I'm also going to delete this blog module here. I'm not going to need that one. And I'm going to come in here to this text module, and then I'm going to update it. It's going to serve as kind of like my title section. I'm going to delete this top header text, and I'm going to make that say description. This will be where I put my description. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to update this one to say listen now or something like that. And underneath there is where I'll put my audio module. All right, so first off, let's go ahead and add our description dynamic content. To do that, I'm going to create a new text module. Now, if you're not familiar with dynamic content, all of our modules will come with, anytime there's like this content field or places where you can add content, there's going to be, at least in most cases, when you hover over that section, there's going to be an icon that's kind of like a dynamic content icon that you can click on, and then it will replace whatever is in there with whatever custom field you want from the list. And you can see these are the custom fields that are already built into Divi, or that already work without a plugin or other custom fields like, the project title, things like that, which can very well be used and will work. And but down here you'll see all of the custom fields that have been added using the Advanced Custom Fields plugin. And these are the, speaker, sermon title, sermon. So these are the ones we're going to be using. And I want the description, so I'll just plug in the sermon description. And as you can see, it has populated it right there. It's real short text there, but it says this is description. But I will want to enable raw HTML. That way it'll recognize all those paragraph tags and things like that. And then I'll click save. And of course you can then go in and, modify the design, and it will design it just like it would any other content. So there's your description. And underneath the listen now section, let's go ahead and add a audio module. So here we're going to get a little creative on, maybe these little labels here aren't going to necessarily correspond with the content we're putting in here, but we're, primarily concerned with how it's going to be placed on the page. So for the title, of course, it makes sense to add the sermon title. And there you can see it's been updated with a new creation. And then I'm going to save that. And then for the artist name, I'm going to click on my dynamic content. And this is where I'll put my speaker. And so I have a senior pastor selected, so that's what it'll show there. And I'll have an album name. Instead of actually putting an album name, you can actually put a, a sermon series if you want, custom field. But this is where I'll put a date. I think that's a good spot for a date. So I'll just put sermon date there. And save that out. And you can see that by taking advantage of the design and, function or layout of the audio module, you can add these dynamic content to these spots without much trouble at all. Here, though, you might be wondering, well, this would be a good spot to put a sermon audio URL, right? Well, actually, right now, that functionality isn't there, but I'm sure it is coming with a future update. So be looking forward to that. But we have a workaround we're going to do. So the cover image, I do want to add the featured image. Excuse me. So I want to hover over it. And for the cover art image, that's that image that'll display on the left of your audio module. Let's go ahead and add the featured image there. All right, so now that that's dynamic content, I'm just going to do one quick thing. I'm going to save that out. And I'm going to grab this background for, just kind of match the design of my layout a bit better. And to do that, I'm just going to, copy this background that's being used for this section. And I'm going to go over to the module again, or the audio module, go down to my background, and then I'm going to paste the background there. And that's an easy way to kind of, update that design of that audio module. Going over to the design settings, I do want to make it left, the text left oriented or left aligned. You could also, of course, style your, dynamic featured image here. If you wanted to make it, I don't know, bring down the saturation so that it's black and white, and then it'll apply that design for every, instance or every project using a different featured image, things like that. All right, I think we're good for now. I do want to give it a custom margin here. I'm going to give it a custom bottom margin because I'm going to be adding a audio module under here, and I don't want any extra margin space. So I'm going to get rid of the default margin and put a bottom margin of 0 pixels. And I'm going to save it. All right, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and add our audio module. Excuse me, our audio embed. But to do that, I'm going to use a text module. So I'm going to create a new text module. And then I'm going to add dynamic content. This time I'm going to add the sermon audio embed custom field. And as you can see, it's not showing up properly there until I select this enable raw HTML. And then it'll make this kind of cool looking MP3 design, which is kind of bittersweet because that's not how it's going to look on the actual site. But of course, you can always target that with custom CSS. But this is the sermon audio embed. So now that that's added, I want to go ahead and reposition it. And let's go ahead and, save out my settings first. And I'm going to refresh my page because I do want to kind of give an accurate representation here. So sometimes if you kind of, so play around here. Yeah, it'll eventually show up as it's supposed to in the visual builder. So I'm going to open back up my settings here for my text module that's holding my sermon audio embed. Then I'm going to go to the design settings. And I know that this image right here on the left of my audio module is 220 pixels. So I can, give it a left margin of 220 pixels if I wanted to, and but actually I want to make it aligned with my text here. So I'm actually going to make it 280 pixels. And then I'm going to bring it up. Let's bring it up to, I believe, 60. Actually, let's bring it up 60. Let's do 40. I think it's 40. So I'm going to give it a negative margin, of 40 because that's the height of the MP3 player. So it's 40 pixels. So that brings it up to the module nicely. And then I'm going to give it a right margin of 60 pixels. So that makes it even on both ends. Looks pretty nice without much customization. And I'm going to save it out. Actually, real quick, going back, I forgot something. You will want to go into your responsive settings here for tablet and get rid of the custom margin on the left and the right so that it looks nice on tablet, just like that. Okay. So last thing, not the last thing, but almost the last thing we're going to add is a blurb module that's going to serve as our download link. So I'm going to create a new blurb module. And let's do, for the title, actually the title is clickable. So we want this to be the content for our link text. So it makes sense to add the sermon title there for my link. As you can see, it's being populated here. And then I want to add something right after it. So to do that, just to kind of make it easier for the user to know, or the visitor to know that it's a download or something, you can add in parentheses the text download right after the content. And that way, every time you update the sermon title on the background, on the back end, it will populate here, and this will always show the download in parentheses. So I'm going to save that out, and I don't need any text here, so I'm just going to take this out. I do want to use an icon, maybe to help show that it's a download. So I'm going to click my little download cloud icon. Where is it? Somewhere. There it is. And then for my link URL, as you can see here, this can be used for dynamic content. So I want to click on my dynamic content, and this is where I'm going to put my sermon audio URL. Now all we need to do is update the style there. Maybe I'm just going to add this blue color that matches the design for my icon color. And I'm going to make my icon left align and come down here for my title text. Just going to increase my line height a bit so that it lines up nicely with my icon. And let's go ahead and make it the font style underline so it looks more like a link. Match the color of that with my design there, and also match the text color. Give it that blue color again. So now it looks more like a link. It's not left aligned yet, so to do that, I'm just going to go down to my size, my content width, and I'm just going to set it to 100%. That way I know it's just going to span the full width of the page, and since it's left aligned by default, it's going to show up nicely on the left. All right, so that takes care of my, main content area, but as you can see, this layout is using a full width module, full width header module to show content, but I want to update this to show my sermon title as the title of my page. So I'm going to go in here to the module settings, change this title to be the sermon title. All right, that would be good for SEO purposes, right? To inherit the H1 there. And then the subheading text will make that show the speaker right underneath there. And I'm actually going to add something before the speaker content. I'm just going to add the text by with with a colon there and a space. That way it'll show by whoever it is the speaker. Save that out. I'm going to get rid of my button links here because I don't need them. And for my content, I'm actually going to add the date, the sermon date. So this, you can add whatever metadata you want actually here. And if you wanted to, you can create another module, add some more custom fields for metadata pulling from the post or the project. You can add a logo image here, which you can pull from dynamic content. If you have a site logo, you can pull that into there, things like that. So there's a whole lot of options we could do. I'm just kind of keeping it simple here for our use case, but I do want to kind of cut down on this spacing. So I'm going to go to my design tab. Looks like, let's just go to spacing here in the search bar. And I'm going to, restore my custom padding to its default. All right, and save it out. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to save out my project here and view it in another browser, a live version of the site in a different browser tab. And then you can see that if I click on this, it will actually bring me to the file there. But because it's not a zip file, it's not going to automatically download. If I play the audio, you can see that it does work, and it is going to play your audio for you. You can see that all my content is being pulled dynamically from the back end. So any questions at this point? I see we have a few here. So how about creating a podcast link? I'm a link to a podcast. I'm assuming. I think that would be fine if you use the URL field type. Murray, thanks for your question. Carol has a question. Let's see how to define H1, H2, H3 parameters. This is actually dependent on what you have set up for or what type of module you're using. In this case, if we were to use the full width header module, this title here is actually, if I come down here to the title text, you can actually, for this specific module, you can actually choose your title heading level. So you can be specific about it. By default, I think it's going to be an H1 since most headers are going to be your top of your page header. So that's for this example. But in other modules, like for example, this, here's a text module. If I go into here under the design, you can see that if I go to my heading text, you can target the design of an H1, H2, or H3, anything that you have in the content. Here I have an H3, so I would need to target that design under the H3 tab. If that makes sense. All right, great. Any other questions? I see the follow-up question, Carol. I hope I did answer it for you. Great question. How about, okay, so creating a feed of all, Murray, about the podcast link, you said creating a feed of all the sermons to iTunes. That's probably a bit more tricky. I do not know the answer to that off the top of my head. Sorry, but it is a good question. Hopefully someone could answer it for you until I can, have time to look into that myself. Could I sort all the sermons by series? Right. So great concept, but perhaps Sermon Manager may still be better. I agree. So this is not your, all-inclusive solution to managing sermons. You would need, some more pieces to the puzzle here but if it is being added to a post or a project, it will have the built-in settings for organization, with categories, tags, like a normal post would. So that's all kind of built in. So you should be able to organize these sermons that way without any problem. And I think I've used Sermon Manager a while back, so I'm not sure if, I guess it depends on your situation, if you need more customization abilities, things like that. But yeah, perhaps another plugin would work better. So thanks for the input there. So Crazy Cow makes a good point. You could use the portfolio module to organize your sermons. Since we created them using projects, I actually mentioned that in the blog post, but you can actually take advantage of that setup and use the built-in portfolio module to add a portfolio of your sermons, or a filterable portfolio of your sermons using that. So good idea. All right, so I'm sure. We have one more question. How do I omit the new windows when I click the download? So downloading direct to audio. Yes, and I didn't mention that. There is the simplest and easiest way that I know how to do that is to basically create a zip file, host it somewhere, and then link to that zip file. And whenever you link to a zip file on a website, it's just going to trigger that auto download. It might prompt you and warn you, hey, you're about to download something. But that's kind of the easiest way I know to create a download button without it opening in a new tab. Excuse me, in a new tab like a PDF or things like that. If you wrap it in a zip file, it will download automatically when clicked. So good question. All right, so I'm going to get things finished up here. There are no more questions. All right, that's all I got for you this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our blog newsletter, our YouTube channel, and like us on Facebook. That way you don't miss out on any future use case live streams like today. And we'll be back here hopefully next Tuesday with another use case live stream. But coming up later this week, be looking forward to our live stream, which is called the weekly WP Roundup with BJ Keaton. That'll be this Friday at 3 p.m. So you want to check that out. And if you want to share your knowledge, expertise, all of you Divi wizards out there, make sure and look at the video description for a link to check out opportunities for you to submit your own unique content on our Elegant Themes blog. So thanks again, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you soon.